lifestyle.
Giles Brown. Love and suffering. Break the emotional chains that prevent you from experiencing love. Your suffering helps you discover who and what you love. This is, well, it sort of flipped my brain slightly, but it is after all Tuesday afternoon. It is the new book that looks at the four, I was going to say the four horsemen of the apocalypse, but it's the four horsemen that get in the way of your romance. Delighted to say that I'm joined live on the line by the author of Love and Suffering, Anthony Silard. Anthony, good afternoon to you. Where are you, by the way?
I'm in Rome, Giles.
Well, I guess, because you look sort of as if you've just been sort of bounding around the place and sort of got a healthy tan on you and that sort of thing.
I got two small kids, so I'm chasing them.
Yeah. So, I mean, I looked at your bio and you've been sort of been a guru with a lot of businesses and, you've high level sort of coaching and that sort of. So why are we looking at love when sort of telling people how to sort of finance companies is much more profitable, Anthony?
That's actually probably true. So my earlier book, which came out a week before the pandemic began in March 2020, was called Screened In, The Art of Living Free in the Digital Age. And it was all about how our screens, our phones are affecting us, and had all kinds of strategies in there for how we can use our phones and tablets and laptops less and that sort of thing. But then the pandemic began a week later, which gave everyone license to be on their screens all the time, of course. And so actually it ended up having a resurgence about a year and a half later as the pandemic wound down. Yeah. But what I kept thinking about is that in Screened In, it was largely negative. It was like, okay, these are all the negative effects phone screens are having on ourselves, our depression, anxiety, loneliness, all through the roof. And so I started to think, well, okay, now I kind of want to look at like something positive, like how can we create a meaningful relationship with another person? And so I started researching forgiveness and gratitude and love, and just really thinking that I guess it's one of those things where perhaps I've never found my place in organized religion. So I've always kind of tried to figure these things out by talking with people, interviewing people, my former clients, and a lot of the individuals and leaders that I've been in touch with over the years. And yeah, I just want to have a better understanding of how do we integrate more love into our lives.
And when we're talking love here, let's underline this. We're not talking about running slowly through a field of tulips in slow motion in a white floaty dress, holding hands. I mean, Anthony, as the saying goes, I want to know what love is, as the saying goes.
Yeah. The foreigner, right? I want to know what love is. We all want to know what love is. Yeah. I think the interesting thing is that we can't really define it because it's kind of like, I guess the closest I've ever come to defining love is to say that I really don't see much difference between love and God and truth. To me, they're all kind of the same. They're all these kind of unattainable entities we spend our lives pursuing, but never fully encounter.
Okay, let's put a spin on this, all right? So we're not talking the Hallmark cards version here. We are talking about, is this the sort of the love as in the gratitude, the attitude, the being at one with the universe, the outstanding, understanding where we're here, rather than just saying, giving a dollar to the guy who's got a cup outside McDonald's? I mean, so we're looking at the big love here, are we?
Well, so in Love and Suffering, I have what I call the love progression model. And so I have, believe it or not, it's more than me just saying, actually, I don't even say in Love and Suffering that love is the same as God and truth. In Love and Suffering, I really look at, okay, so what are the kind of way stations en route to bringing more love into our lives? So the first, I call it the four love plateaus. So it's acceptance, forgiveness, gratitude, and love. Each plateau has an obstacle that has to be overcome. So we have to overcome suffering to reach a state of acceptance. We have to overcome resentment to reach forgiveness. We overcome judgment to reach a state of gratitude. And then we overcome what I call incarceration to reach a state of love. And this is based on a lot of the people I've worked with and coached in the past, because I'm a professor of leadership at Luis Business School in Rome, and I've been teaching leadership with Fortune 100 CEOs, senior leaders for the past 30 years, as well as most of the world's largest nonprofits like Save the Children Care with their leaders. And what I've noticed is that every single leader I've ever coached, whatever challenge they're facing, it always traces back to someone in their life they've never been able to forgive. And it's from that observation that I felt like, okay, I need to write this book, Love and Suffering, because what happens is when we're unable to forgive someone, we sort of languish in a state of resentment. Now, resentment comes from which is again, and sentire, to feel. It's to feel anger again and again and again until you become paralyzed. So a lot of us think that forgiveness is nice to do. No, it's need to do. It's actually, there's another misconception, is that forgiveness is something we do largely for the other person. That's not, I don't believe that's true. I think forgiveness is necessary for our own personal development, because otherwise we are stuck in that resentment and we can't accomplish anything.
Because you have to sort of go, okay, fine, I'm going to keep my side of the street clean. Okay, that person may not want your forgiveness. They say, hey, forget it. I don't want your forgiveness, but you've done the action. You've gone out there, because again, we sort of think, okay, I will amend to that person. I also forgive you, and we will be back in the field of tulips in white floaty dresses again. But real life isn't. But real life isn't like that.
Well, I love the way you said that. It really is about keeping our side of the street clean. The thing is, resentment is what you feel while the other person's out dancing. If you want to dance again, you got to forgive. There's really, what I write in Love and Suffering is that forgiveness is necessary for personal development, but forgiveness is different than trust. It doesn't mean you're going to trust the person again. It doesn't mean you're going to even continue the relationship, even speak to that person again. You might, but trust is an entirely different decision than forgiveness. Forgiveness is saying, can I let go of this and move on with my life? Can I let go of that resentment? Trust is saying, can I believe that this person is credible and accountable and continue to build my life around them? And if that's the answer is yes, then you trust them. You go back to them. Or to that relationship. So forgiveness is necessary for personal development. Trust is necessary for relationship development. It's a very different thing. But it means. You go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So, right, we've done the forgiveness. We put that person in that drawer, shut that box. Yeah. Moving on. Thank you very much. It was fun. Yeah.
Okay.
Trust. Which surely the people that you trust that reflects on you. Because if you're giving out your trust, you're putting yourself at your most vulnerable out there. And as that person goes, right. Yeah, you can trust me, and then absolutely drops you in the proverbial excrement, you might say, well, I'm never going to trust again. But that might be the way that you give out and project your trust, Anthony.
Well, yeah, and I think that that's a big mistake, Giles, because the way I look at it, every relationship is kind of like a file in a file cabinet. Like if you know one relationship, you know one relationship. So it's really not fair to all these other human beings that really desire to give and receive love out there in the universe to go and say, okay, I've been hurt by this one person. They dropped me in the proverbial excrement, as you so well put it. And now, and now I'm not going to trust again anyone else. Because what does this other person have to do with the first person? Nothing, right? And so often we generalize and we say, okay, well, all women are like this, all guys are like that, we come up with all these amazing classifications, like, well, all guys under 30 are like that, or all women over 40 are like that. And in the end of the day, it's like we don't want to be hurt again. But that's why I call it love and suffering, because you're going to suffer whether you love or you don't. So might as well put yourself out there in love and get the good suffering in,
Yeah, because, the faint heart never won fair maiden, as somebody famously wrote. But again, it's part of, we go back to that development thing. And also your idea of love can change. Muhammad Ali famously said, if you are chasing the same things at 60 that you were chasing as a young man at 20, then you haven't evolved as a human being. And you know,
exactly.
you see so many guys who've maybe made, you know, got the money, got the Lamborghini, because Italy, you know, wearing the Dolce & Gabbana, looking ridiculous with the, you know, 25-year-old whatever on their arm. And you think, hang on a second, that is, yeah, it looks great in the bangles, but it's not, that's not a partnership. That's not a cosmic meeting of minds. Or it might be, but, you know, maybe I've been getting it wrong and I'm judging. But you see what I'm saying here. Your idea of love should evolve as you, quote unquote, mature.
I mean, that's a whole nother thing, Giles, like, because I'm actually working on a book now on gender and leadership. And, you know, a lot of guys, they essentially try to amass as much toys and money as they can, so they can find a younger, attractive woman. And it's interesting because at all kinds of income levels, there's a lot of research that shows that women they're often looking for a guy who, it's not that they need a guy who's wealthy, but a guy who can take care of them, who can provide. And if a guy, so I always tell guys, oh yeah, you don't believe in that, like, go, you know, try on your next date, try saying, yeah, I really think that a man and a woman should equally contribute to the finances, and see how far it gets you. You know,
yeah. But yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
Looking at the suffering thing, because, you know, everything is thrown in our paths during our lifetime to teach us experience. And if you, like you said, it's the bad stuff and the good stuff. But the thing is to maybe just learn for it and step back and not blindly, you know, go to that wine bar or swipe on that whatever app you've got and considered perhaps that you shouldn't be going for that, you know, that person, that type, because we can go for types at certain points.
Yeah, because people are essentially focusing on the external. They're focusing on, you know, her looks, his money, and it's a huge mistake, because what you end up with is the internal over time. So I always tell people when I'm coaching people who are dating, I say, you know, it's not what he drives, it's what drives him. You know, it's not how she looks, it's how she looks at you.
That's good. That is real good. The other thing is the fact that you have to, because people go out there, you know, if you, you know, I've been told it myself, you know, Giles, they can see the desperation in your eyes. You know, if you're out there hunting, you know, hunting on the scene in London, you're doing all the right things, but you're not happy in yourself, you're not confident in yourself. You know, a prospective partner can sense that off like a wildebeest can sense a lion in the savannah.
You know, that's right. And also, even you're not going to choose well. A hungry person's not a good judge of food. You know, so it's like by developing yourself, your relationship with yourself, you develop this capacity to actually go out and meet the right person. One thing I often advise to people who are dating, I'll share with you, with your listeners, is that you only talk to one person in your intimate life, and you talk through everyone else to that person. Let me explain it. Let me explain this. So, okay, here you are, Giles. You're out on a date in London, okay?
Yep.
So you're sitting across the table from this woman, and you're asking yourself the question everybody asks on their first few dates, right? Is this the right person for me or not? And so what you can do is, while you're there, look off into the distance at your life partner and ask her, is this you? Or is this not you? Because you only talk with her your entire life.
Yeah.
And you talk through everyone else. And so one of these days, it's kind of like when you least expect it, there you are. And she's like, you better go out with her again, because this could be me. And you get that feeling that, hey, you know, there could be, it's beyond anything rational. It's just a feeling of kind of home.
When you say look out across at a life partner, are you visualizing something? Because if I'm in a shishi wine bar and I'm giving her my normal spiel, which is the Giles Brown Greatest Hits collection of things that I did and think I did, because you always do that on a date. You always give them the funniest stories and the most, you know. And I was in Monte Carlo and then I got thrown off this yacht, etc. And blah blah. You give them the Greatest Hits collection because you want them to be a bit wowed.
Exactly.
Then by about 5 in there, you know, dates it. Then you're getting down to the bargain basement selection. You know, so when you say you look over at your life partner, you kind of try to visualize, because I mean, if you know, there's no more.
You're visualizing, but you're connecting with the internal. You're not visualizing certain facial features or body type. You're visualizing another soul out there who's someone where you feel seen when you're with her. You feel you can entirely be yourself. And that's the thing. I mean, you're a hilarious guy. I've listened to you before on Talk Radio Europe, and so I'm sure you can please a lot. Like you can really entertain a lot of people out there, and a lot of you do that every day. But you don't want to just go there to entertain. You also want to go there to see if this is someone worthy of you. Sort of continue along with her. So it's not just. That's the thing, is that oftentimes we get so focused on, am I going to be acceptable to someone else? Whereas where it all begins is really, first of all, am I acceptable to myself? And then, as Malcolm X once said, when those who, if you want to be acceptable to someone else, you first have to be acceptable to yourself. But that point of that inner detour where you go, okay, because when you take that time, you finish Talk Radio Europe, you go out for a walk, you're watching the sunset. Those moments where what most of us do is we avoid those moments of being with ourselves. Timothy Wilson at University of Virginia, a social psychologist, he ran this study where he gave people this shocking apparatus that would literally shock them, and he asked them, "How does this feel?" Horrible, everyone said. How much money would we have to pay you to shock yourself? No, you can't pay me. I'm not going to shock myself. Then he put them in a room alone with nothing except the shocking apparatus for 15 minutes. And over half of the people shocked themselves because a negative feeling was better for them than no feeling. And that's the thing. Now in our highly, sort of our age of distraction we're living in, there are all of these ways that we can shock ourselves over and over. And really, addiction is just trying to escape the natural emotions we feel. And this is what a lot of us do day in and day out. We find our addictions through our phones. We find them through like random sex, through, all kinds, alcohol, the list goes on and on, shopping. And at the end of the day, we're just trying to escape ourselves, but we can't. We never have been able to. And once we just accept, that's why I start Love and Suffering with acceptance. It's like there's Bill was a U.S. pilot during what was called, in the U.S. they called it the Vietnam War. In Vietnam they called it the American War. Yeah. And so he's there, and he's in his like Midwest home. He's been married for a few years, has 2 kids, watching TV. All of a sudden he's like drafted. He's off to Vietnam. 3 weeks later, his plane goes down. He's captured. He's a prisoner of war. Okay. He's in this cell. He's emaciated. He's lost 30 pounds. He's, there's rats and lice and cockroaches and filth, and he just can't accept it. And he's about to die. I mean, he's losing so much weight, and he just, why me? Why did this happen? I had everything, and now I have nothing. And out of nowhere, whether he heard this voice or not is not the point or even that important. He believes he hears a voice that says to him, "This is your life." And at that moment, when he hears that voice, everything changes for him. He realized, okay, this is my life now. He accepts it instead of this avoidance, which again gets us into all kinds of addictions, although it's hard to get into addictions when you're in a cell in Vietnam, right? But anyway, he's there, and so he starts talking with some of his cellmates and joins the kind of prisoner community. He starts doing, push-ups and stomach crunches, and this gets him through the war till he gets reunited with his family. And I think that's the thing, is that many of us, we are unwilling to read the writing on the wall. We're unwilling to accept. Like let me give you a personal example. So today I take my son and his friend out to one of these local towns here near Rome where we live. And, they're both about to turn 13. So
you have my sympathies. You have my sympathies.
Yeah. So I say to him, yeah. So I say to them, I go, you know what? You guys have never just gone out on your own. I can give you guys some money. You guys can go and have lunch together. You guys want to do that? They're like, yeah. So I give them like 35 euros. They go out to this Chinese restaurant. They get some ice cream after. They have a great time. And it's really like they both feel so strong to be like going on their own without an adult and paying themselves, calculating they got to keep it under the money we have and so forth. And this brought me back to my own life when I was their age, when I was a kid. And it got me realizing, you know what? I'm too severe now. Like the problem with writing a book about the problems with being on screens too much is you become too severe with your own kids about screens. And but I'm just accepting this now. Yeah, you know what? I've been too severe about it. I got to lighten up some, he's shown me that he's very responsible, and I got to back off and be a better dad. And that's the thing, is that oftentimes we're just running, and we don't want to admit to ourselves what we see every day. And that's the first step. It's just acceptance.
I used to live on my own on a cottage on a lake. Okay, and you got down it by the side of a mountain. It was 3.2 kilometers down the side. I broke a Land Cruiser. That's how severe it was. Okay, and I was off grid. And I used to have a few friends to come and visit me in London, from London, and the thing that freaked them was the silence. And the lack of, because they're used to the ambient light and they're used to noise, and that really used to freak a lot of people out, because you keep going, you keep running, you keep the hustle going, keep that. Now and again, you just got to sort of kick back and enjoy the silence and take the pause, and then you got to do the work and look at the bits and pieces. But you have to do that tinkering, because otherwise you're just going to be repeating the same patterns. That's the thing. Yeah,
I did something similar. I went off the grid. I got a hammock and traveled around Venezuela and Brazil, sleeping next to waterfalls and on deserted beaches. And I did that for a few months. Then I went into the Peace Corps. I was a volunteer in Africa.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And I was there for 2 years. And I came back I came back to the US, and what I realized, this is kind of strange. It sounds strange, Giles. I realized that I learned how to love myself, but I hadn't learned how to love someone else. And it's interesting, because when you give me a chance, I want to offer 2 free books to your listeners. And one of them, The Myth of Friendship, is about how one of the greatest challenges we face as human beings is how to balance togetherness and separateness. If you're with people all the time, then we lose sight of ourselves. We lose sight of what we care about. We lose sight of our values. But if we're on our own all the time, we can kind of get so brittle, and like in a way we lose sight of how to assimilate with others. So there's this kind of balance. Like, in fact, one of the worst punishments, it's actually been outlawed in many countries because it's so inhumane, is solitary confinement. Like, prisoners go, they have all kinds of mental problems often if they've been put in solitary confinement for an extended period. And I think, what we are in as a society right now is kind of the opposite. It's this kind of like frenetic, intertwined confinement, but we're not really communicating with each other. We're not really connecting. So there's this myth that we have, which is never in human history have we been connected with so many people as we are today. But what we're experiencing is the opposite. Never in human history have we been in contact with so many people and connected with so few.
Because we're in contact, we see what they're doing, but that's not connection. It's like driving a bus through a city, through New York, and people waving it. That's what the internet's like. You're like driving in a bus, you're a passenger, so you're seeing what's going on, and you're waving, and people are waving back, but you're not connecting with them.
In the end, you're behind a window.
Yeah.
You're behind some glass, and you want to connect, but you somehow can't break through that third wall. So it's actually, loneliness right now, Giles, is skyrocketing. I mean, right now in the U.S. in January 2018, 43% of Americans were lonely, based on the UCLA loneliness scale. 2 years later, January 2020, Cigna Healthcare study, that percentage leaped to 61%. Over 3 in 5 Americans lonely. In the UK, where you are, in France, in Canada, Australia, all hovering around 50% loneliness. The former prime minister of your country, Theresa May, she hired a minister for loneliness after a study came out that found, and I'm not making this up, British children spend less time outside than prison inmates.
Yeah, well, but luckily we're Spain's largest English language station. So I'm based in Spain, so we have that community, and we got the outdoor lifestyle. Right. So, but I get that totally, because again, people are connected on screens and the whole thing, but get out. Take a walk, talk to your neighbours, play a sport, join whatever. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's just taking that first step, Anthony, which is it's just the hardest. And and that means you've got to go out and actually interact with people from behind. Yeah,
we used to say hang up and drive.
Yeah.
Now, what I would say to people is stop texting and call. And of course, go hang up and drive. Yeah. But literally, I had a friend of mine from Scotland when I was doing my doctorate. He was doing his MBA. This is at ESA Business School in Barcelona.
Yeah.
And this guy, Robert, he said that in 2 years of his MBA, he never once spoke on the phone with another student. Everything was by WhatsApp text. And there's a lot of studies now that have come out by Juliana Schroeder and Nick Epley, a number of other psychologists that have found that we tend to dehumanize others when we just read textual communication from them. But when we talk with them, the voice carries this kind of human connection. And actually, a lot of people are like, oh, but it's going to be so much better if you FaceTime or if you video call. It turns out video has very little additive effect over voice. Voice is really the purveyor of human connection. So the more we can talk with others, and these days, a lot of us have friends dispersed all over the globe.
Sure.
And I would say if you can hang up and drive, do it. And if you can't see them in person, call them up, talk with them. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned, we like a giveaway here at TRE. You mentioned two. What are people? What are you offering? I mean, what are you trying to?
Okay, here's what I'm offering. Here's what I'm offering. So by the way, 100% of the proceeds from Love and Suffering go to nonprofit education programs in Africa and Latin America. But I know times are hard, and buying a book is not top of mind for a lot of people. So, regardless of that decision, I want to offer all of your listeners 2 free books. The first book is called The Myth of Happiness: How Your Definition of Happiness Creates Your Unhappiness. The second book is called The Myth of Friendship: How Your Misunderstandings about Friendship Keep You Lonely. So you can get both of these books. It's super easy. Go to theartoflivingfree.org/free happiness and friendship books. Again, theartoflivingfree.org/free happiness and friendship books. You literally just put in your email, you get a confirmation email in your inbox, you confirm it, you got the download links. So, I hope your listeners will enjoy it.
Just give it one more time, because people are really scrabbling for pencils and pens and quills and parchment.
One more time.
Yeah.
theartoflivingfree.org/free happiness and friendship books.
If people want to find you online and say nice things to you,
I always love that.
Exactly. Come on. Where can they find you? Where's the best place to track you down on social media or websites and stuff?
Well, the best place, is like LinkedIn or anywhere. Just you can go there and just put my name, Anthony Silard. It's Anthony and then Silard. That's a great place. And then also, actually, if you go to theartoflivingfree.org and you put in your email, then you'll get. Also, I'm a host of an ABC radio show called Resocial, and every week there's an episode. You get a link to it. So, any way, I'd love to hear from your listeners, and I'm always open to hearing how whatever I'm sharing affects you, whatever you think I could work on. I'm trying not to go through life, but grow through life.
You let a pair of 12-year-olds go off to a restaurant, and they didn't come back with like eight tubs of ice cream. I wouldn't trust my goddaughters to do the same thing. So I think that's something we should take from today. The book is called Love and Suffering. I love doing these interviews because you think, it's going to be one of those life coach things, and then they turn into something rather brilliant, which today's interview has been. The book is called Love and Suffering. It's by Anthony Silard. Anthony, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you today.
You're a great host, Giles. I really enjoyed being here with you. Thanks for inviting me on.